Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 27th day of December, 2018. Well, we have a day of completion. It's also a Thursday, so expansive Jupiter energies, energies of benevolence and caring and compassion and good fortune. You practice some acts of random kindness today. Makes you feel good, makes others feel good for no reason at all, just to do it. You begin your day in grace and in happiness. Whether things are happy in your life or not, the circumstances around you might be crappy, but we always have a choice whether or not to maintain, a happy outlook on things and just a happy mood. I think when that doesn't happen, I think we're focusing on the physicality of our egoic existence and form, and we're making real things that are actually probably not. They're more of an illusion than anything else. And if we can all participate in the illusion, it sort of makes it real, but conflict is not our natural state. So maybe we use today's Jupiter energies to sort of express that in the world, that we're here to be loving and caring and compassionate and helpful, a service to others approach, maybe. Let's count 13 and see what we have for today. Well, we're going to draw another one. I got the Queen of Swords, who I love, but court cards are what they are, excuse me. We started to do our walk this morning and we had to come back because it was really icy. But the winter air sort of affects me. So anyhow, what I was starting to say is that when I pull court cards, I always pull another one because they need something to interact with. They're kind of a dual function card. They can either be about the individual on the front of it, so either a student or a young woman or a warrior or a young man, if you're talking about the page or princess or knight or prince, because they can be called different things depending on the deck. In this deck, they're the page and the knight, and then you got the queen and the king. So you're talking about older people, an older man, an older woman of authority, or you can look at the qualities. You can look at undeveloped potential for the page and princess. You can see passion and warrior spirit and wanting to make their mark on the world. That's the knight or the prince. And the queen, of course, is the one that's, the settled person around which the entire family revolves, basically. I know we think it's the dad, but no, it's not. It's the mom, and we all know that. Well, and then you have the king, who can either be benevolent or authoritarian or consumed with himself or consumed with others, so it just so there's some directionality of energetic flow with it, but they really need another card to interact with. So the Queen of Swords is someone who basically cuts through the crap of life. I'm going to try to angle these a better way. I always get this line that's across it, a light line. It's like you can't see a thing. It glares. But anyway, you can see she's swords is the air sign, so we're talking intellect and reason. She's someone who's intellectual. She's not going to take a bunch of crap from anyone. Basically, she's someone who doesn't suffer fools. But at the same time, she's reasonable and she's approachable and she's somebody that is organized and can get things done. So, but just don't. You don't want to cross this woman. You don't want to approach her with no integrity, because if you do, she's going to look at you like you're an idiot. And that's pretty much, I just love that card. And I've said this before, but my favorite one is in Crowley's Thoth deck, or Thoth deck, however you want to pronounce it. In that, she's reclining, and she's got a severed head in one hand and her sword in the other. I don't know. I like it. Anyway, let's count 13 again and see if we can give the queen somebody to interact with. Well, we have the Four of Wands. And here you see a celebration. The castle's in the background. You've got the four poles here, or this is considered wands. I don't know why, but they do. I'd rather actually see a wand, but that's just me. But you've got a couple who's celebrating. They've obviously gotten, married or something, and they're celebrating. They're holding their flowers high in the sky. They've got up in the air. They've got you've got garlands of you've got garlands that are both greenery and flowers up above here, connecting the four wands or the four staffs or the four poles, kind of like it's kind of like a doorway into their happiness, a doorway into their future, a doorway into their new partnership, their new union. But you can see up there they're crossed, aren't they? And so you're looking at balanced energy exchange. You see that in the rune Gebo. But it's equanimity, isn't it? And that's basically what the Queen of Swords is all about, isn't she? You're talking about somebody that wants to have reason and balance instead of having emotions guiding everything. We need to have a balance between head and heart, basically. But here you have something that's completion, balance, harmony, order, sanctuary, even, because you can kind of see that this sort of defines the boundaries of things. And in a sense, that's what the Queen of Swords wants to do, wants to define the boundaries. So maybe today that's what we need to think about, how we come together in joy and harmony and in benevolence with one another. And maybe not have our boundaries so narrow, maybe be more inclusive and allow the diversity that surrounds us to come into our lives, maybe. That would be a little more expansive way of looking at things, I think. When you always see the other instead of the other side of self or a brother, you lose. You lose who that person is. You lose how they can enrich your life and your whole life experience when you see everyone else as the enemy. It's very difficult, to think in terms of collective harmony and collective unity and the collective unified presence when you're always seeing everyone else as the other or the enemy. And it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us in our lives to do that. It leaves us feeling isolated. And it just then becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And it sort of develops its own energetic momentum. And pretty soon that's where you live. You don't live in the abundance of unity. You live in the soul, the destructive silence and isolation that narrowing down who you bring into your lives it just leaves you empty and alone. And when you do it to other people, you're asking them to experience that same thing. And really nobody wants to. And so, of course, I drew Menes, which is sort of, you can see Vunyo, you can see the P forward and reversed. So that's joy. So the joy and love that humanity can bring to one another when you can see Dagaz in the middle too. Also, you see Gebo, the X, balanced energy exchange. So we have an interesting energetic alignment here about living in what makes sense. And unity and fellowship with others is what makes sense. That this can become our foundation and our structure. Unity and diversity. Which brings us to Menes. I don't know. Manaz is the 20th rune of the Elder Futhark, and so we're looking at a rune of balance. But it's how we interact with one another, really. It's an earth element rune. It's, again, it's about the rational mind. It's also an earth element rune. But rational mind is also about intellect, so there's some air there. I mean, you can't really look at elements anyway as a single energetic thing, okay? Every single element has all the others contained within. So, so there's an aspect of air in Manaz as well. It's the thought to be the thought rune, about intelligence, what it is to be human, linked to both birth and death. Uh, the individual's part in society. So again, do you see yourself as somebody who is part of society, or do you see yourself as somebody who chooses to isolate? If you see everyone as the enemy, then I don't know. What kind of life is that? I don't know how you experience this so much. Because if you do, it's just with a really small number of people, isn't it? You miss out on the richness of other people's traditions. We live in the United States of America, and here it is we've always called it the melting pot. We have people from all over the world that come here. And if we would only truly embrace them, our society as a whole would be far richer for it. To have, cultural traditions influencing, everything, bringing a level of understanding and unity, and acceptance that I think was the whole point of the United States to begin with. So I hate it when my hair catches on my eyelashes. Don't you hate that? Anyhow, I think that the message for today, being a Jupiter day, and to use the energies of benevolent Jupiter and come together. Take another look at the boundaries that you set for yourself. And if you have a hard time connecting with people that are different from you, that might be the place to start. Go ahead, go meet your neighbor that you don't know, or talk to a coworker that you don't talk to very often because maybe they don't look like you, or they're different than you are. Maybe you're a little afraid to go talk to them. I guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to come away with it from that experience much better off. You're going to find out that you don't need to accept the prejudicial and racist attitudes that some people exhibit in this country as being how we're supposed to think about things. It's not about us versus them. It's always been about us. And we have to start seeing it that way. I think today's expansive energies of Jupiter are going to help us do that. I think that we can cut through the crap of belief structures that simply don't bring us together and get rid of them and start expressing ourselves a little more and having something like this be our foundation and our structure. We are, the creator focused into form. We couldn't be separate even if we wanted to be. We might look like it, but we aren't. So practice seeing a brother instead of another. Okay? Anyhow. I'm going to do a lunar transits today. I guess I do those every 2 days. I had to do a calendar though, because sometimes they happen. And if I don't, they happen early enough in the morning hours that I'm asleep. And so if I don't do it the day before, and then I'm late. So anyhow, I actually put it into my calendar so that I don't forget. One day I'm like, oh my God, it's going to do it in an hour. And I haven't done it yet, so I haven't written it yet. So anyhow, it's going to be up at some point today on the blog. So check that out. And, be good to yourself, be good to one another. Thanks so much for coming by. It's so nice to see everyone. If you haven't clicked subscribe, please do. I'd love you to do that. But again, be good to yourself. Be good to one another. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, I guess we won't see you tomorrow. We will see you on Monday. And blessed be.